Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Indianapolis Colts are 6-1 and steamrolling everything in their path. Is it time to take them seriously as a Super Bowl contender? Also, the 49ers rebounded with a win over the Falcons. And the Mariners and Jays are headed to Game 7.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
It was a double show-me game. The Indianapolis Colts traveled to L.A. to play the Chargers, and the Colts showed us a 38-24 beatdown in a game that frankly was not this close, really, for most of the game. Jake Arthur from Locked On Colts joins me now. And Jake, if you're particularly an AFC South fan, you're going, they can't keep getting away with this. But guess what? At a certain point, this is just who this team is. How have they been able to transform a team really with just a quarterback in an offseason to get to this point?
Well, it makes you think they had this thing built pretty well. They were just kind of missing the quarterback. Yeah. Now, I will say, to a point, Jonathan Taylor is running as well as he ever has been. Oh, yeah. He is as good of a complete running back as he ever has been as well. He's catching the ball really well. He's done Othman pass protection, which has never been his strong suit. So he never really needs to leave the field because he's doing everything at a high level. Tyler Warren is the ultimate X factor. Shane Steichen is having the time of his life, scheming up ways for him to touch the ball. He's creating yards after a catch. He had like 2 29-yard catches today that were mostly yak. So you throw in not only a competent quarterback, but a guy that's doing just all the right things. And they brought up on the broadcast today, I thought J.J. Watt made a really good point. It's not always sexy and it's kind of boring, but like getting the 4 or 5 yard dump off on 1st and 10 is so helpful for setting yourself up throughout a drive. And then it's 3rd and 2. The Colts go for it a lot, 4th and 1. So they're just really setting themselves up for success early in the set of downs. And then defensively, it's just unbelievable the amount of injuries they've had, but they come up with the necessary plays that they have to have just like in the nick of time, which happened again tonight.
Yeah, the 2 interceptions on Justin Herbert. One of them just was like incomprehensibly bad. But still, Daniel Jones, I mean, look, I understand a lot of nice schemes and it helps when you have the running game. But you go 23 of 34 for 288 and 2 touchdowns against a defense that has been pretty stingy this year. Jesse Minter is one of those hot coordinator names. I know that the Chargers are down some players as well, but it's not like he is not making throws. There are still some really nice throws, some really nice reads. I feel like he's playing with a really good rhythm and confidence right now within the structure of this offense. And that is, I think, more. I bet if you got Shane Steichen, a quart of whiskey into him, he'd tell you this is better than we thought Daniel Jones could play.
Surely it's Daniel Jones 2.0 or even 6.0, whatever you want to say. Yeah. But this is not a version of him we've ever seen. Not only is he taking the throws that are there, like I mentioned, but he's throwing guys open. He's throwing into tight windows. He's throwing downfield. Have like a
years opportunities to go up and get it.
Yeah, like we all thought, even if Daniel Jones was going to have a good season, that Alec Pierce would still probably be in trouble. Has not been the case. Pierce had like a 48-yard completion today, had a couple other chunk completions on like corner routes. So Jones is just, he's so accurate. His timing is great. His anticipation is great. And he's just making his progressions and getting the ball where it needs to be. They spread the ball around a lot. And when you're not playing favorites, you're usually going to just get the ball wherever it best needs to be.
Okay, so this is a team now that has looked really impressive, frankly, every week. They're 6-1. Is this a great story and they can win a playoff game and they're going to meet the best teams in the AFC and that's going to be that? Or is this a why not us situation right now?
No, I mean, we're not quite halfway through the season, but I think week 7 is a good enough sample size to say this team is legit. Week after week after week, this offense is performing. Number 1 in scoring. They were like top 4 in yardage coming into this thing. EPA, all of it is sky high. They have the leading runner in the league. Jonathan Taylor has 11 touchdowns now. So offensively, there's just really not an issue. Yeah, you look everywhere. Don't forget, Tyler Warren is also leading tight ends in yards. So, like, everything is going pretty sweet on offense. They really turned things on in the red zone recently as well, which was kind of a thing of, like, this offense is really good, but they haven't hit their stride in the red zone. Well, now they have. So that's going well. The defense is the Achilles heel, and I think the trade deadline is going to be really telling because the Colts haven't had a team this good since I can't remember. I mean, Andrew Luck probably had a couple teams of similar caliber, but this is a really, really good team to where now they have to understand if you're going to make a true push at this, because like I don't think it's unreasonable to utter the word Super Bowl at this point. They are the top team in the AFC, and they have been for a little while now. Like, I think waiting for the other shoe to drop after what we have seen them do week after week to a variety of teams is downplaying them. I think they're legit contenders. I'm not saying they'll necessarily win it, but why should they not be considered in the race to get to the Super Bowl? But internally, they have to understand that their pass rush is not quite good enough, and they've just been incredibly snake bitten by injuries at cornerback. They're on their millionth corners. I think you and me are up next to play against the Titans next week.
I'm ready.
Right? Exactly. Against the Titans, that may not be too bad. But no, they got to keep making moves. And they have shown a sense of urgency even since the offseason. I think they know they have a good team. Whenever someone gets hurt, they plug it in with an outside source pretty much right away. So I think it makes sense for the Colts to be buyers at the trade deadline to help fix the issues and really get them where they want to go.
Stay up to date all year on the Indianapolis Colts by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Colts on your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Falcons and 49ers battled it out on Sunday night. Before we get to that, Jalen Hurts went off against the Vikings. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment, whether it's player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles aired it out against the Vikings.
In a Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz shootout, the Philadelphia Eagles QB1 put on one of the best performances of his career in the most important part of the season so far to carry the Eagles to a 28-22 win. The Philadelphia Eagles now 5-2 on the season. Jalen Hurts, only 4 incompletions in this game, over 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, the clutch 3rd and 13 conversion to A.J. Brown on the game-winning drive, rolling to his right, putting the ball on the money, converting the play, finding Devontae Smith downfield, finding A.J. Brown in the end zone. This was Super Bowl 59 Jalen Hurts. And again, the gut check moment of the 2025 NFL season for the Eagles. He had to overcome a bad offensive line performance, a very strange play calling day from Kevin Patullo again, and he had to outduel his former predecessor in Carson Wentz, who really did ball out today despite some mistakes. What an all-time classic game. Hurts versus Wentz. Hurts wins.
The Patriots beat up the lifeless Titans.
For the first time in franchise history, the Patriots win 3 straight regular season games on the road by beating the Tennessee Titans. Jekyll and Hyde performance from the defense. We're going to dive into that during the postgame. Also, Drake May was unbelievable again in some big-time plays from the receivers. But Mike Vrabel, he gets his revenge down in Tennessee. Patriots dominate 31-13. Make sure you jump over on the YouTube channel, Locked On Patriots, as we have this thing covered in the postgame. We'll talk to you then.
And we're still trying to wrap our mind around what Shohei Ohtani did in Game 4 of the NLCS.
I still can't believe I saw Shohei Ohtani do what he did at Dodger Stadium. That man hit 3 home runs, took a walk, and he also pitched 6 scoreless innings where he struck out 10 batters. That's unreal. I mean, that game in Miami where he got to 50-50 last year, that was some ridiculous baseball. Doing this in the postseason, pitching as hard, batting as hard, doing both of them in an elite level on the same night with a spot to the World Series on the line for the Dodgers, that's just out of this world. Shohei Ohtani, you're an alien. You're not human. I'm convinced of that. I mean, look, I'm talking about you and I disappear. I disappear when I said that. First it was my hat, then it was all of me right there. Come on, man. The Dodgers, they're back in the World Series. Game 4 of the NLCS in 2025 will forever be known as the Shohei Ohtani game. Does he have an encore? What can we expect from him in the World Series? I only got this to say. Seattle, Toronto, whoever the Dodgers play in the World Series, I'm sorry. Shohei is back.
Injuries have ravaged the 49ers roster for weeks, but it did not stop them against the Falcons, at least not enough to get a win. Locked On Falcons host Aaron Freeman reacts to what looks like a missed opportunity for the Falcons.
To me, there were two main factors in why the Falcons lost this game. You know, going into this game, we were talking about the two main factors in the Falcons, or if they're going to win this game, they need to check these two boxes. They need to get Penix going on the road. And, you know, you have to avoid the 49ers having that get-right game when it comes to their rushing attack. And to me, when you look at why the Falcons lost the game, it's because they couldn't get Penix going on the road, and the 49ers had their get-right game with their rushing attack. We talked about this on Friday. I'm sure many of you guys did not miss that show, but we talked about how Michael Penix, basically since, you know, becoming the starter for the Falcons late last season, has essentially statistically been the worst, or one of the 2 or 3, depending on what metric you're looking at, worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL when it comes to playing on the road since he took over. And, you know, it wasn't much improved. And it's like at a certain point, again, young quarterbacks struggle with performing on the road. That was something that Matt Ryan struggled with. But at a certain point, you're going to have to figure that out and at least get to average play. And I don't think we really got to average play. And then we've talked about the run defense being a major weakness for this team every single week, right? It just has not gotten to a point where it's been exposed, but we've been talking basically since August. There are going to be certain teams that are going to be able to expose that weakness. Now, is it going to be an every week thing? Probably not. But is it going to be a thing that happens a handful of times this upcoming season? And you're looking at it, and this Falcons team inability to stop the run is going to be their Achilles heel in a handful of games? Yeah. And this was one of those handful of games. And as we've discussed before, your best run defense at this stage, until this run defense can tighten up, is a good offense. And the Falcons did not get a good offense. And those two things combined for the 49ers to kind of control this game on the ground. So, you know, we're talking about Michael Penix. Might as well get the pump meter out of the way. For those of you that are unfamiliar, we do this after each game. Our initial sort of breakdown of Michael Penix. We have 4 levels of the pump meter: 0 pumps, 1 pump, 2 pump, 3 pumps, right? 0, 1, 2. You know, as you go up, the better that means Michael Penix performed. You know, 3 pumps is too many pumps. Ode to the Key and Peele sketch from many, many years ago. And to me, this was a 0 pump performance for Michael Penix, right? For me, he had a lot of misses in this game. Some of that was owed to pressure. I saw the stat after the game from Next Gen Stats that Penix was 0 for 9 on the plays passing where he was pressured in this game. The offensive line did not look as good as we have seen it look in previous weeks. They kind of got exposed, and part of that was maybe owed to the fact that the 49ers had the lead and were able to, their pass rushers were able to pin their ears back. You know, Robert Saleh, we talked about this with Locked On 49ers co-host Brian Peacock. You know, you talked about how the 49ers pressure rate hasn't been great without Nick Bosa in the lineup. And the Robert Saleh seemed to take a page from Jeff Ulbrich and basically like, okay, we're going to scheme up some blitzes in some key situations. And it felt like the Falcons were kind of caught off guard by that. And then you also saw Bryce Huff do some real damage in this game to Elijah Wilkinson, particularly when they were able to get Huff in some wide 9 situations and allow him to use his speed, his bend to win around the edge. And Penix was under duress throughout this game. This was a game where, we talked about wanting to see Michael Penix being able to extend plays outside the pockets. I haven't seen the stats or anything like that, but he was, I won't say he was running for his life, but there was a lot of plays in this game where Michael Penix was trying to get outside the pocket. And I don't recall too many of those that resulted in positive gains for the Falcons passing attack. So overall, not a great game for Michael Penix. Still a work in progress to get him going in the run game, but in terms of the passing game on the road. But circling back to the run defense, I know Chris Collinsworth, who was calling the game for NBC, was talking about how Divine Diablo, who exited the game early with a forearm injury, we'll talk more about that and what his status is later in the episode. And he sort of mentioned like, oh, this defense really misses Divine Diablo. They absolutely did miss Divine Diablo, but that wasn't the reason why the Falcons couldn't stop the run, because they haven't been able to stop the run even when Divine Diablo was healthy and playing well, when Jalen Walker was healthy and playing well, when Billy Bowman, all guys that were missing in this game were healthy and playing well. And so that's going to continue to be a challenge. And it's been a through line throughout the Kyle Shanahan era, whether he was an offensive coordinator or head coach, is that he has a tendency to find your weakness and he will exploit it. And in the Falcons case, that weakness was their inability to stop any runs up the middle. And the interior D line seemed to get pushed around. It'll be interesting to go back and watch the film to see sort of who were the main culprits. But, this defensive line, we've talked before, is an attacking unit. And it's really about getting those TFLs to offset the fact that they're not going to necessarily be a unit that's going to hold up against the point of attack in a major way. And they did have some TFLs in this game. Zach Harrison was the one guy that kind of really stood out in that regard. But, this interior D-line was just kind of getting pushed around by a lot of those double teams and combo blocks. And Christian McCaffrey was just easily able to get to the second level. And then you combine that with some poor tackling. J.D. Bertrand really struggled in this game, replacing Divine Diablo. You had some missed tackles on the second and third levels from the safeties as well. So run defense remains a work in progress. And overall, the two things that we were worried about going into this game, to me, got kind of exposed, and that explains why the Falcons lost. But
stay up to date all year on the Atlanta Falcons by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Falcons on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. Coming up, we're headed to Game 7 in the ALCS. We're headed to Game 7 of the ALCS after Toronto held on for one more contest. Locked On Mariners host Ty Gonzalez and Kobe Patnode share their thoughts on Game 6 and look ahead to the biggest game in franchise history.
I'm a little pissed off. I'm going to tell you guys right now because because the Mariners lost, I have to host pre-intermission post-game of the Kraken game tomorrow. I have to host Mariners post-game and Seahawks post-game all in one day. Right. So, it's going to be a fun one for your boy here. But let's talk about the Mariners postcast here. Anderson Hurst, Chris Crawford with you. Logan Gilbert was bad. The offense might have been worse besides one player. And the defense might have been worse than that. There was not a phase of this game besides maybe bullpen-ish that was up to par today, and unfortunately I feel like the Blue Jays are the better team right now, and I even think that going into today, to be completely honest, and I just don't know what to make of that, and now I'm going to be a nervous wreck tomorrow along with exhausted. So Chris Crawford, what are your thoughts on Game 6?
I've typed this phrase a lot. I don't know if I've ever said it out loud. A wet fart noise. This game was just a wet fart noise, and it's so disappointing that they came out so flat, so incredibly flat. All that talk about if you are anti-momentum, bada boom, bada bam, ba bam. There's your perfect example of it right there. That maybe momentum isn't always a thing, because to say the Seattle Mariners felt like they had the momentum after that monumentous Game 5 win is an understatement. And it meant nothing. It meant absolutely nothing, except it does, Anders. And here's why it does matter. Because you won yesterday, you get a chance still tomorrow. You still get a chance to play for the World Series tomorrow. If you play like you did today, it doesn't matter. You will get absolutely cleaned, absolutely destroyed. but you do because you win that game. But it's just so disappointing to see a team. I don't know if they were nervous. I don't know if they were lackadaisical. I don't know if the moment just was too big, vomit on the sweater already, mom spaghetti. I don't know what it was. All I know was it was nowhere close to good enough. And now you have a do or die game again. But in Toronto, this is going to be really hard.
Yeah, and like I realize myself and you, Chris Crawford, we made a big deal out of Game 5 because it gave you the series lead and it gave you kind of one more step towards going to that World Series for the first time in franchise history. But again, I expect the players to have the mentality of this isn't over. And it looks like today that they kind of thought it was over at this point. And they expended all of their energy to do what they did in Game 5. And it's like, guys, you still need to win one more game for this to really matter. And then, of course, 4 more after that if you really want to make it matter. But like that's why it's such a grueling grind at this point in the season. And as much as I hate them, I've said it multiple times, I hate the Blue Jays, but they're a really good team. Like, very good team. They are hard to beat, and they've been hard to beat for the last 4 games now. So it's going to be a tough one. I'm going to be honest, I don't feel great about tomorrow, but hopefully George Kirby proves me wrong. But let's start with the starter today, and that was Logan Gilbert. What were your thoughts on non-Walter's performance? Because I don't think
Walter was very bad. Walter was cooked more than Walter cooked, unfortunately. It's the let's eat grandma. We're putting the comma between Walter and cooked. The command was really bad. Now, I will also say, and we'll talk about it, but the defense behind him didn't do him any help whatsoever. One of the reasons the defense didn't help him, though, is because he couldn't finish off hitters. He could not get the swings and miss. And Logan Gilbert he will be the first person to tell you, relies on swing and miss more than any starter, I think, in Major League Baseball. He does not have that ground ball pitch. He does not have that pitch that can get you out of innings. He relies on swing and miss. This lineup doesn't swing and miss. It's a really difficult lineup to strike out. It is a poor matchup. His command was bad. The defense behind him didn't do him any favors whatsoever, but it's disappointing that the guy who came into your year as the ace of your staff wasn't good enough in 2 games. And there's a bevy of excuses behind it. In the first game, he was hurt by his defense and he was hurt by Doug Eddings. And thank God we don't have to watch Doug Eddings do that ever again. Umpiring tonight wasn't great either.
Well, Andy was on short rest in the first game. So that's kind of something I was like, okay, he has full rest. I expect to see Walter today.
I had so much great expectations for him. I really thought Walter was going to shove tonight, and he didn't. And if you want to make those excuses, and I'll make some of them for him, the defense wasn't good enough. There were a couple of missed calls, but ultimately it's on you. It's on you, and also a little bit on your manager for leaving you in for the 5th inning as well. I don't understand that decision as well. Somebody posted, and I thought this was really good, just real quick on Dan Wilson. I had it right in front of me, and of course I lost it because I'm not good at this, but he didn't manage to win today. He didn't manage to play for tomorrow. He just kind of managed the baseball game, and I'm so confused what the overall game plan was here. But ultimately, we're talking about Logan Gilbert. Tomorrow, we'll be talking about George Kirby for sure. It wasn't good enough.
And finally, the Broncos spent 3 quarters stuck in neutral against the Giants. Then they floored it. 33 points in the 4th after getting shut out for 45 minutes. It's the most a team has ever scored in a 4th quarter after failing to score through the first 3 quarters. Not the most complete performance ever, but a win is a win, and that's more than enough for the 5-2 Broncos, who are now looking at a pretty easy schedule before their bye week. The collapse obviously isn't enough for New York, although fans are still pretty excited about what Jackson Dart is doing as a rookie. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, does Tampa Bay's lucky streak come to an end against the Lions? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.